everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
episode 9. Episode 9 of The Robots Are Coming. Today we're
Almost
going to
double
do
digits.
almost double digits, almost there. So today we're going to do a bit more prototyping, and we're going to use bolt.new as one of the new code gen editors that handles a lot of stuff. And we're also going to use Claude in tandem to help us with some of the data that we want to do. So
Nice.
yeah. So Mike, I think I'm gonna share your screen.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
So we've started a fledgling product requirements document here in terms of what we're hoping to build today. We're continuing on the theme that we've had for the last few prototyping episodes of things that are hard to put together in static clickable image prototypes. So here we're thinking a table of customer data that's filterable and sortable like a CRM. And we've thought about some dimensions that we want to have in this table that we can filter or sort on: customer name, status, date added, company size, ARR potential, maybe a couple other things we spitball. But there were also some features that we were thinking about implementing here to really showcase the power maybe of bolt.new. So what were some of the things in your mind here?
Yeah. So I think because the use case we're mainly tackling here is, again, things to prototype that designers want to test out and build that might be hard to do with Figma, right? So we thought of like a table view where you want to filter and sort data, and that's probably like a mess to prototype because it won't be interactive.
Totally.
But it's easy enough. Seems like it should be easy enough to do with one of these new tools. So, and because we're not trying to deploy it, I think we can just use local storage as the thing to persist data when we're testing with users or like showing stakeholders a view that we might be experimenting with.
I love it. This is a trick I've used a lot. And I've tested this out with ChatGPT and a couple other of these LLMs to build some of these prototypes very quickly. So I have not tried Bolt, though. This is going to be another first rodeo for me. So I'm excited to see how this kind of prototype comes together. See if we can do it in as little amount of time as possible.
Okay, so what we should try to do is use Claude to generate the JSON data, so like the mock data that we can then insert into Bolt to be our kind of static mock data, and rather than have Bolt generate it on its own.
Got it. So we're going to use Claude to generate our data set and then use bolt.new to generate the prototype.
Yeah, exactly.
And save to local storage.
Yeah. This way, if we need to have future use cases where my testing be like with like a new user that has like their own data set, you could then just like generate a new set of data, and then you can just like plug and play potentially with that and swap it out with like different customers that you might be testing with.
Could we? I see the value in spreading our asks across different LLMs. One, to also just sort of test what working with each of these is like. And if you're using the try before you buy versions of these LLMs, that sort of spreads out your tokens across multiple platforms. For the last part that you were talking about in terms of using bolt.new, or sorry, Claude to generate the data set. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Could we not also use Bolt for that part as well?
We could. I'm just thinking of like a mechanism of like, what would it be like to, let's say if you need to like update the data, I guess you could just edit the file yourself and replace it. So we could probably all do it in one place and see how that goes too.
Well, I like the idea of using Claude and Bolt here, and then still having the option open. It sounds like this is a not a one-way door decision, so to speak, in that you could use one or either
Yeah.
or another LLM to generate your data set in the future too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think why don't we go ahead and prompt Claude to, it's like, hey, we're creating a CRM prototype. We're thinking of having these fields as part of data. Ask it to generate the data and see, and then have it also suggest like any other columns that we should include.
Got it. So I'm going to really quickly copy, paste over these. This is a little, I should have thought ahead a little bit here. Boom. So I got one more. And any others you'd like to add that would make sense for a customer data set?
Yep.
What format would we like this in? JSON?
Yeah.
We'd like the data in the form of a JSON object. What else?
I think let's start with that, see what we get, because then once we get that, we can then just jump over to Bolt to create it.
CRM prototype. Cool. All right. I'm not going to think too hard about it.
Mhm.
Ship it. Boop, 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 boop. Due to unexpected capacity constraints. No. Okay. Well, this is why we have multiple options. Let me try this one more time and just see. If at first you don't succeed, send another request.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So like here's what I'm seeing is like generating like all these fields. It's also making a bunch of data, right? So maybe it's only 3 of them, but seems like it would be useful for us to just like give this to like Bolt at some point, right? Rather than have it generate all of those on the fly for us.
Totally. And let's see what we got. Oh, ID. That's nice to have a UUID for each one. Customer name. Oh, this is individuals rather than companies. That's interesting. Small 1 to 50 employees. Source of lead. Super interesting. I wonder if it's got. Well, we didn't say, that's funny. So both David Chen and Maria Rodriguez are individuals, but they're also apparently companies.
Yeah. Why don't we then just like ask it to fix it? It's like, hey, we want like I guess yeah, well there's a
Oh.
company.
So sorry. I'm
Yeah.
I maybe spoke too soon because that's our customer. Maybe this is our POC, our point of contact at the
Yep.
company, and then we've got the name of the company industry. I thought I saw something, medtech.org. We could,
Yeah, we could if we feel like it's missing, we just like prompt Claude to modify.
yeah. How about can you add a company name to each customer in the object? There we go. Tech Innovate Solutions.
These are how new startups are created.
Global Finance Enterprises. MedTech Innovations. Love it. Okay. So we've got
Nice.
3 customers. Is that sufficient or do we want, I feel like for a table, like to really see the power of a table, like a sortable table, filterable, should have more like 20 or
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
Can you add more entries? Entries so that the total data set is about 20 customers. Thank you.
Cool. So while it's doing that, we can also start thinking about the bold prompt, right?
Yes.
So let's see. What do we tell CRM? Like essentially, in here, we would just tell it to uh, that we just want to build a prototype of CRM with uh, and use local storage. Well, I guess the main functionality is like we want to see like customer information. We want to be able to like filter and sort by a bunch of different parameters and attributes.
By specific attributes. We can come back and define each of these because our data is going to be our table. Our data for our table is going to come from the JSON that's currently being generated,
Right.
and specific attributes are also in that table, which we can call out maybe the ones that we think
Yeah.
are going to be the best to sort by. And then in terms of writing things to local storage, are you thinking of like adding like the ability to add a new customer?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess there's a bunch of different functionality that we can think of. Let's see. So that's one, right? Being able to like manage and interact with the tables, add a customer. We could do editing, but we could maybe like hold off on that until
Ooh.
we have it. Edit the entries, but it might be. Let's see. Let's just have Bolt create like the first pass of the UI, and then we can iterate with it. So I think we can prompt it with this and the ability to like uh, add a customer. So we have like the scaffold, and then they'll create something, and then see where it lands.
Okay. Groovy. So
You can also ask it to use local storage for
yes,
to yeah.
I'd say both the data provided and um, customers that are added via the UI should be stored in local storage. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that when I refresh, I see those changes. I see my changes.
persist.
Persist. Love it. Okay, so we should have our object now, and we'll say we want to prototype a CRM to see customer information in a table with data in the attached JSON. And I'd like to be able to sort and filter by specific attributes. And maybe we could just put parens here to pop and what those would be. But let's go back to Claude and see what we got. We should have a much bigger list now, which I'm just seeing from the size of the cursor scroller
Yeah.
there, which is great. So why don't I
Yep.
download this? Sorry, you were going
Yep.
to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say either start in a new chat or in this chat. It's like, hey, Claude, give me the the attributes. Just give me a list of attributes from
Ooh,
this. So you don't have to list it,
the list of
or the list of attributes.
the list of attributes used in the data in the JSON you just generated. There we go. Wow, there are many.
Ask it to just give it the attributes without definitions.
Give me the attributes
That's
without
a bullet. Yeah.
definitions as a bulleted list. Nice.
Nice. And then we just copy and paste that into Bolt.
Do you want to filter on all of these, or is there maybe a
That
subset
is
that you think are
true.
going to be the
Yeah, we don't
best?
need to filter in all of these. You
Let me
can,
pull this
well,
out here. We got
yeah.
our list right there.
So we want to be able to like display all of this first, right? So we can break it up in a few ways, like create a table with like these columns,
Mm-hmm,
um,
mm-hmm.
and local storage, right? And then just like have it. And then we can add the filtering and sorting later if we need it.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. So let's just see. So if I get rid of that, we want to prototype a CRM and see customer info in a table with data that's provided in the attached JSON, which let me just do that before I forget. Ah!
Well, then just
How's this? Let's copy to clipboard with data in JSON in the JSON below. And
yeah.
I will shift return for a new line, shift return, but boom. Okay, so this, it looks like it didn't.
That's a lot, I think. Let's see. We can
Yeah.
try. I feel like I think we should just ask uh ask it to build it first with the list of columns.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
So give it the column. Yeah, just ask it to you give it the columns and then without the data, and then you can populate it separately.
Boop. Shift, enter. Cool. So these are our columns. It might even make up some data and pop it in there, but it's not going to
Yeah,
be. We could, if it does that, we could well,
replace
we
the
could see what we get,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm curious to see what it does with just this. And we'd also like the ability to add a customer. Both the data provided and the customers are added via the UI. Added via the UI should be stored in local storage. So that cool. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see.
Bam. Look at that token count deplete. That actually was not bad.
Well, it's
It
not.
used 3,000 tokens, but I guess it's still generating. We'll see how
Yeah, it's
much.
still generating. So yeah, maybe you can drag your window over a bit because so yeah, over here we have it has the files, and then you can see a preview at some point once it's ready.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. It's still.
So the other thing that's interesting about Bolt is that it will generate the project files for you, right? And it has awareness of the file structure, and it edits and creates files and updates the files in a way that this is much easier for someone that's not sort of familiar with code versus like having to copy and paste from ChatGPT or Claude into a project file.
Yeah, I see that. At the same time, well, this is going to be really interesting to see what it pops in here for the preview. At the same time, it did some things that kind of surprised me, right? Like we didn't say anything about um, what type of framework to use. I see this is a React app. I see we're using TypeScript. I see, yeah, just a lot of like this is a much more sophisticated application scaffolding than what we've been doing so far in our previous episodes. And so the plus side is that it's packaging a lot of this stuff together for me. The downside is that finding where the different bits and pieces are that I want to edit might be a little interesting. But we can try to work with it solely through the prompt editor, like we've been doing in the past, to see how much we can get away with not actually even looking into any of these files ourselves.
Yep, exactly.
Holy moly! Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool. So okay. Add a customer. We've got 2 in here. Wow, that's dope.
yeah, yeah. It it's crazy, right? So can you make your screen even like maybe because a little bigger? Yeah.
Yeah, let's make this bad boy take up a little bit more space. Cool. Um, right. Okay. So we got, it did not like me doing
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So back to preview.
You can try
I might be
refresh.
doing,
Oh yeah, you can also just hit that
there we go.
maximize button if you don't see like the
This
entire.
guy
Yeah.
here.
Yep. Let's see. There it is.
That's super sweet. Okay. So yeah, we got this is a really nice looking little app too. I'm really curious what's going to happen here.
Try
So
it.
we add customer name, company size. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that was kind of hard to see.
Yep.
Let's say, give me a company name. Oh, customer
Uh
name.
oh. Okay. CRM and it. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Go for it. Keep.
Churned.
Oh.
5,000 error potential. Ooh, sky's the limit. Ooh, let's just keep adding zeros.
Now you're gonna break the UI.
All right, we'll subtract a few. Industry innovation. Add customer. Boom. There we go. You are added to the list.
Nice.
So, okay, now I'm kind of curious a little bit more about how the guts of this are working, because
Yeah.
we asked it to save data to local storage. I think I forget exactly what we how
Yeah,
we
we
mutated
did.
our prompt. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, and you can totally still do that with a React app, right? But it makes me wonder, like, did it also spin up a database for me, even though okay, no.
No. Yeah, it's just local storage, because there's no like I guess like, Bolt itself doesn't come with like database capabilities, but you can see now that it's finished, right? The number of tokens you use for it. We started with 150, now it's at 117.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
We'll be judicious with the remainder of our prompts here.
yeah, yeah. So if you go to the code, I wonder if there's like a file that has the whether there's like a file that has like the data mock. Oh, it has mock customers the data.
Mock customers, where are you seeing that? Oh, mock customers, here we go. Yeah, yep, here we go.
Yeah. Let's see if it's
And so it should just be the two here, and then you were added.
yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah.
So here's where like if we wanted to, I wonder like what would happen if we actually like just like manually like swap this out with our data. Then in theory, it would
Oh, I
display
see
like
what you mean.
all the data that we had been prototyping with, right? Uh,
Right. The columns would need to be exactly the same.
mm-hmm,
And I think did we specify our list? Yes, we did.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um, so it should be exactly the same. We could
yeah.
try.
So we could do that, right? But like at this point, like, are there any other features? What we don't have yet, we don't have like filtering and sorting, right? Which maybe
Oh,
is more
yeah. That'd
important,
be kind of cool.
right?
Again, another
We
thing that's really hard to prototype.
yeah.
So I like that idea. I mean, we only have 3, so you won't really see the power of it necessarily, but I mean, as you said, there are many ways that we can now get a more robust data set here. We could have, Claude. We could take the JSON that Claude already gave us, pop it in here, and just see if that works,
Mm-hmm.
assuming the structure is the same. Um, we could also just, copy paste a bunch of rows here in this object. So there, I feel like, we could get the point across still that we can add in the functionality and then see its potential by adding in records later.
Yep, totally.
So yeah, let's get some filters in there. What do we want to filter on?
I think it seemed like customer status seemed like a good one.
Filter um, the table by customer. Was it just status? I forget exactly what we said.
Yeah, it's a status.
Yep. Status. Yeah, I want to see, like Hui Industries, how many other customers could we just not hold on to?
Mhm.
ARR potential,
They'll
all about
probably
the
yeah.
Benjamins. Date added. We want to see how fresh these leads are. What else? Industry.
Maybe next follow-up date.
Ooh. And next follow up date. Spelled correctly. Boop. Yeah. Okay. Let's have the ability to filter the table by these things.
Do you want to do both filtering and sorting? Like
Ooh,
just in
yes.
one shot? I don't think it's worth separating it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be able to do that based off of the amazing prototype it gave us with one prompt. Um, call me crazy. I think it should be able to do both of these.
Yeah.
Filter and let's say also the each column in the table should be sortable. Yeah. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else?
No, we're good. Let's go
All
for it.
right. Spend our precious tokens. Boom.
Yeah. I was gonna say like suggest some stuff around like, ascending, descending, but I also feel like it will like with like common enough UIs, there's probably like you could try to specify it if it's like really necessary, but I also feel like it will assume that it's necessary.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. I'm curious too to see how much of a established pattern that is, but I feel like that's a safe assumption. Um, let's see. Bop, 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 bop. I really like the feedback that this one gives us too. Exactly what it's doing. It and I think, well, I guess one thing I'm kind of left wondering here is, it's creating all of these files, sorting, filters, sorting, filtering. Yeah, okay, now it's describing a little bit more about what it did.
Mm-hmm.
What I was thinking is like, is it going to be obvious to me like where it's
Mm-hmm.
modified this code if I want to modify some things later? Um, Interesting choice. Let me see if once this re-renders again. Um, yeah, okay. So we've got some styling work to do. Maybe we can spend a couple tokens, just say like, I'd be curious to see if we could just ask it to, refine this with a more polished look and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Something maybe broad and generic like that, just to see what assumptions it makes to restyle it along those lines. But
Yeah.
let's just first see if it works. So we've got status. Cool. Our only active one is John Smith. And now we've got all of them churned. You're the only one that's churned.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that's working. We've got tech, consulting. I'm also curious, kind of like how this is built. If we add new industries to our object, I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming that those will appear as options that I can filter on.
Yeah.
Um, this is looks like very. Let me go 0 to, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So everything's gone. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is really slick. And let's maybe try one, the date range here. Next follow-up is not in the table, which would be nice to add it so that
I know
everything that we've
it's on the
got
right
that's
side of the
clickable.
column. You mean
Oh,
date
is it?
added?
Oh, yeah, yeah, pip, pip. I'm looking straight at it. The date added, I guess, is the thing that's because I only see one date here, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I wonder how it decided which columns to include because like there's definitely a lot of fields in it, right? So,
Yes. Yeah, we could. So I'm thinking maybe a couple things that we could add to this. One is maybe seeing what it can do to restyle this here to make the filter panel take up a little less space. Maybe these could be
mm-hmm.
drop downs, something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we could do is try to emulate like a lot of CRMs will have really big grids that have horizontal scrolling. Not necessarily saying that that's a great pattern, but it's one way to just like chuck in a table of all of our
Right.
column headers just to make sure that all of our data is exposed, and sorting is working too here. So that that's pretty cool. I'm
Yep.
pretty stoked on everything that it's given us here so far.
Yeah. I think the general thing is like with a lot of these apps, the first if it's like a fairly standard thing, you get something relatively quickly.
Mm.
What could happen is like depending on like our skill level and the apps that we're making, it can go off the rails, and then trying to debug it becomes like the big challenge.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, with a tool like this, this is kind of opening well, and similarly to the prompt that you asked, I think reflecting on some of the prototypes that we've built over the last couple of episodes, kind of like the so what. Cool, we can do these things. They're like semi-functional applications, not actually used for prime time, but what good are they? I
Mhm.
feel like in one prompt, we got to something that was pretty cool already.
Yeah.
You can add in a customer here and simulate the whole process of adding in an object and seeing it, both the feedback on the table and just the process of seeing what our form looks like. That is, I think we're really close, if not already there, to being able to use tools like this in the context of a brainstorm. Just like, oh, well, what about this? Let me open up this tool and then I'll give it a prompt and then show a potential workflow, even if it's not,
Mm.
exactly the one that we're looking at, just to sort of prompt the idea. Because sketching out some of these things
Hmm.
with that level of fidelity just takes so much time. So that's one thing that gets me excited about what I'm seeing here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like getting something on the page to react to really quickly.
Hmm. This one's kind of funny, like, but but your point about like some of the, how far to take this. This is a really weird affordance that's still using the plus button for cancel, but again, I still feel like there's so much richness in the fidelity of being able to go through that whole workflow and see the object get added. Test with the user. What would you type in here? For from a testing standpoint, that's what I constantly go back to, and one thing that makes me so excited about prototypes of this level of fidelity is just how much richer you can have a testing session.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So, what do you want to iterate on next?
So you had talked about a couple things that we could do here. You mentioned that these are deployable.
Hmm.
Is that something that we could try to round out? Maybe just like pushing up this prototype if we were to call this done.
Yeah.
This filter panel is sort of making the OCD designer part of my brain go a little nuts, but I'm willing to just park that for now and go to deploy it
Yeah.
if we want to see how that whole workflow
Yeah. Yeah. So
works.
escape out. So like exactly where your mouse was just
Oh
now.
yeah,
That's the
deploy.
deploy button. Yeah.
Okay, I see it, and let's do it. Well, it's kind of interesting too. I'm seeing a lot of the patterns that it used in our application here that it gave us in terms
Hmm.
of the look and feel are actually very similar to the Bolt application UI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So you clicked on it, right?
I did.
Okay, cool. So yeah, because I saw on the terminal it was doing a bunch of stuff. So what it'll do now, I think it will then package it and deploy it to Netlify on like a temporary URL.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if it would give us a notification of sorts when it's ready. Um,
Yeah,
but
it is
then,
kind of
oh, actually,
inconclusive.
open
Let me
open
check in
the
the
sidebar
terminal.
again. Open the sidebar again because we're not seeing the chat again.
Ah, yes. Good point. There we
So
go. Yeah. So
cool.
I've initiated your deployment process. It's been deployed. You can preview it here. To transfer this project to your own account, that's really cool. You can claim it.
Yeah. So if you click on the first URL, you can open it in like a. So that's the app.
Nice.
Essentially, like anybody now you can like test with any user, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and that took one click. I mean, like it doesn't have the local storage, right? Because the local storage was in like the build. But I bet if you to create one now with like a
Well,
new customer,
yeah. I was gonna say, we got all of your,
all the pre-fills.
yeah, nice. Um, and let's do, yep, innovation, cool. Add you as a customer. You are there now. If I refresh, you should still be there.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably open up local storage and see it there too, but refresh, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
That took 2 prompts and a click to deploy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
I'm
at times I felt like we spend more time preparing the Claude prompt to generate the JSON and just waiting for it to build to get to the state, right?
totally. And yeah, I think, going back, I've seen, I was just kicking the tires earlier this weekend on GitHub Copilot and watched a couple tutorial videos on people just sort of getting up and running themselves, working very quickly. I know we slow down and talk through our process step by step and how we're setting up these prompts and going through a little bit more of the exercise of what it might be like to use these in work life scenarios. Um, all that is to say, when you're just riffing by yourself on these, like getting to this point is seconds or minutes, right? So like that's where I feel like the potential is still so big for early ideation as just a tool that was not accessible years ago is now something that we can pull up at the earliest stages of a project.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Cool. Is there anything else you want to do with this, or should we call it done?
So I this filter panel is still
Yeah.
wigging me out a little bit. I think it might be kind of cool to see if we can make it look a little bit better with a very high level prompt, and
Yep.
then redeploy our application and see
Mm, yeah.
if it's made a good difference here.
Yeah.
So maybe what's something without going too crazy. I'm kind of curious to give it a very high level prompt, just to
Hmm.
say like, um, can you clean up the filter panel to make it um, more streamlined um, and modern looking, and replace the and collapse the checkboxes into drop down menus.
Hmm. Cool. We're now at 77,000 tokens before you submitted that.
Oh yeah,
Up.
okay.
So, yeah.
So we've used half of our daily allotment in the freemium version
Hmm.
here
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah. That was like with, I think, like one prompt to create it and the second one to create the filters and the sorting.
Mhm. Let's see what we're getting here. Converting all the filter sections into
He
drop-down
just wrote, he
menus.
only updated one file.
Just this one here. And yeah, we still have, it didn't really bite into our token limit all that much. Let's see here. Nice. Clear all. That's kind of interesting that it's, because I haven't, oh, I see. It's just there. That was something I'd like to modify, but yeah. All right. That's pretty sweet.
It's much better.
Love it. Let's ship it. Okay. So let's go back. And so if I want to modify this,
Hmm.
I just redeploy.
That's my assumption.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if it's going to create a brand new deploy, or if it's going to use this
I
same one that
think,
I can claim.
yeah, I think it's gonna use the same URL. I think they just updated that recently. Um, so while it's doing that, the other thing I would call out is that you can download all the project files to then just like iterate on it indefinitely, right? Because like now that it has generated the files next to the deploy, there's like a download button where you can just download the files locally. Um,
So, oh, I see.
yeah. So
So this
is
is
that the?
100%, 88. Yes.
Or you
Yep,
could
yep.
just, yeah, I was just
Yeah, I
saying
could just refresh.
refresh. Yeah.
I just want to make sure too here. Yep. Cool. That is awesome. And you're still there because it's pulling from the same local storage.
Yeah.
Um, wow, super cool. Okay, this is another one to add to the toolbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you were talking about pulling this down here really quick,
Hmm.
and I wasn't seeing where you were referring to that. So, if I
Oh,
go to
right. Yeah.
code here,
So,
all the files are here.
yeah.
How do I pull
Yeah.
them down?
If you look at where the deploy button is,
Download.
yeah, that's, I mean, I think they were deciding whether download should be next to the file to whether it's, but there it is. Either way, you have all the files, right, locally. Yeah, assuming like you run out of tokens, you can iterate on it in some other way. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, I think this ability to just like have multiple files being edited by the system creates just like a different level of prototypes that you couldn't necessarily do with just ChatGPT and Claude by themselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really slick. I'm stoked that you brought this one to the table to kick the tires on. And I like the workflow that we developed here where we're actually using two LLMs together. One, I think, to preserve a little bit of our token count for these, for the purposes of these videos, but also that you've got options and you can kind of sprinkle around, experiment over time and see which one is good at what for the purposes of what you're trying to build.
Yeah, totally. And it's just like the learning I've had as I've been playing around with all these different ones is just that a little bit of planning does go a long way in the sense of like we talked about creating the CRM, what we want from it, and then like the fields. It helps to have a little bit of a plan going into them.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, now we can prototype with local storage and have these like super interactive types of fields.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. See y'all next time.
Until next time.